that enthusiasm at the beginning. Hello, everybody. Hello. Say hello to me. I'm so thrilled to be here and to be your mayor and to share a little bit in person about the state of our city, because this is really a momentous occasion for us. This is the first time in over a year that we have been able to gather for the state of the city, and to be in person in this new spot is just really heartwarming. So I'm so thrilled that you all have joined us. I want to really welcome, I want to welcome you, but I also want to say that on behalf of the City of Encinitas, the Chamber of Commerce, and also the City of Encinitas as a whole, and my fellow council members, that we are so proud. We're so proud to be Encinitas. And we can reflect back on our city's many successes since our virtual State of the City event last October. And so when I think back on this past year, what I reflect on the most is feeling overwhelmed by Encinitas' unbreakable spirit and our sense of community, our sense of togetherness. Because we have managed to come together and to stay connected and remain resilient in the face of very difficult social conversations. And I think you know what these social conversations are. They're happening in the news around us all the time. And we've also been suffering with the isolating pandemic and all of the mental health and physical health effects that that has on all of our families. But Encinitas is, and I believe will always be, a tightly knit community. We are a community of neighbors, and we are working together for what unites us, so that we can solve problems. I feel like that's the thing that you really want your city leaders to do. You want them to work on solving problems. So our host this evening, the Chamber of Commerce, has illustrated this selflessness and their steadfast support for our community in their support of the businesses and the people behind those businesses, the people who work in those businesses. And I want to sincerely thank everybody at the Chamber for hosting tonight's event and for working hard to move it to this location, because it would have been easier to keep it at the Encinitas Senior Community Center. And there were little details that I felt really strongly about, like, for example, that we have a zero waste event, and we have real plates and real glasses, and try to reduce that impact on our climate from this event alone. And the Chamber and this hotel and the city worked tirelessly to make that happen. So I just really want to say thank you. Give a big round of applause. The three other Main Street associations, because we have a really robust business community that works together extremely well. So the Encinitas 101, the Cardiff 101, and the Leukemia 101 are business organizations in the city who provide vital services together with the Chamber so that our businesses can thrive and you can have fun things to do. So let's give another round of applause to those organizations. Thank you. And then I want to say a particular thank you for being here tonight at the Aloe Beach Resort. So this is our brand new hotel in the city of Encinitas, and JMI Realty and Fenway Capital Advisors were the ones who developed this breathtaking resort hotel right here in Encinitas during the height of the pandemic. So they had people put to work. They opened it literally during the pandemic when everybody was staying at home, betting that they would be successful in this community. And and it seems by all accounts that that's the case. I know for many people who raised their hands at the beginning, this is the first time you've been here. And someone said to me this was probably the cheapest way that they're ever going to get to go here, which I don't think is entirely true. So you can always come in for a coffee, and as was mentioned, there's also free access from here down to the beach, and you can always walk around. So it is available for the public all the time. But we're really fortunate to be here for the state of the city because this is a premier location, and it really provides an unrivaled experience that we are just barely beginning to experience here in the city of Encinitas. So I'm really grateful that we were able to move here. Thank you. And you can see the picture of the Aloe from probably a drone, but it's a great picture. So I want to begin my remarks tonight also with a big thank you to my colleagues. So here we are in our best pose of a rock band. So stand up again, Deputy Mayor Tony Franz, Council members Joe Boston, Alicia Ainsley, Julian, stand up again. Let's of course, were wearing a mask because it was the height of the pandemic. And this great photo was snapped, so that's how you get to see them tonight. So we, of course, do not always vote in lockstep. We sometimes disagree, but we have great civility, and we problem solve, and I could not be more thrilled to serve with my Encinitas City Council members. They are really fantastic. You have elected them. You've chosen great people. I want to say thank you for that. And they are demonstrating leadership and collaboration and problem solving in difficult circumstances every day. So thank you again to the City Council for all that you do. And I also now want to recognize the face of our city. So this is our city staff, picture taken this morning. And the accomplishments that we'll discuss tonight really would not have been possible without their expertise and their commitment. Not just to the city, but to the residents and to getting the job done. You know, they work tirelessly and they take a lot of abuse at times. And they are professionals and experts. And our city manager, Pam Antill, needs a great team. Stand up, Pam. For the city are dedicated public servants, and I just thank you so much. And then I want to say thank you to my family. So this picture is when I was sworn in as mayor 5 years ago, nearly to the day. And the kids were so little, and I'm going to introduce them, and they're going to stand up, and you're going to see how much the adults are the same, and the kids have changed. So this is my perfect for me, ideal husband, couldn't ask for a better partner, Jeremy Blakespeare. Two beloved children, Ava and Aloe Blakespeare. And my support network, the scaffolding, the foundation, the matriarchs in my family, my mom and my aunt who help me do what I do. And lots of respect. Me, all of my family inspires me to be that best possible steward that I can be for Encinitas' bright future. And it's an honor that I never take for granted, and I thank you so much for your support, my family. Thank you. So looking back on this last year, it's clear that the trials of this past year underscore the reasons that Encinitas is that community that I'm so proud to represent, and that I think so many of you are thrilled to live here, and those of you who visit are really happy to visit here. I frequently travel to other places where people say, oh my gosh, I love Encinitas. They love it, they have a history here, they visited people here, they always wanted to move here. It's amazing how common that story is. And it's because of who we are, it's our built environment, but it's also our people. It's how they're treated when they're here and how they experience our city. So during the pandemic, this most difficult last time, we really united in service to each other. And we extended that comforting hand to the most vulnerable in our community. At the height of the pandemic, this included the immunocompromised and also people who are most susceptible to the virus and to the variant, and people who are locked out of access to consistent or reliable housing. So without a place to quarantine or to practice safe distancing, these endangered members of our community were particularly at risk. And the City of Encinitas and our committed partners, like the CRC and the front table right here, raise your hand. They really stepped forward to help. We wanted to help people who needed help. And we did. And so we all have many reasons why we call Encinitas home. But being welcoming and including all who choose to call Encinitas home is what truly makes our city great. And I believe strongly that over the course of this past year, we have made strides together in how we think about and define inclusiveness. And by extension, this has changed how we see ourselves and our efforts to be a more empathetic community. In the past year, we created the Encinitas Equity Committee to ensure that the city, is doing everything possible to work with our residents to be a welcoming, inclusive, and diverse, and intentionally diverse community. One thing I want to highlight is our safe parking program. This is a prime example of the city stepping forward to help those who need it when they need it. So the city approved finding a safe space for people who find themselves suddenly without shelter to get back onto their feet before they fall into street homelessness. I am grateful and in awe of the social workers and the staff at Jewish Family Service who have been bringing help and hope directly to people staying in their cars. They are helping reunite them with family and finding roommates, and this is access to what really is life-changing benefits. I'm also tremendously grateful to the leaders at the Leukemia Foundation because they temporarily allowed the use of their agriculturally zoned space to host this 25-spot program. And it's important to remember that when we're helping people, these people, nearly all of these participants are over 60 years old. Sorry, not all, half of the participants are over 60 years old, so seniors, and more than 90% have not been homeless before. So this is the first time they're finding themselves without shelter, and they are staying in their car. So put bluntly, this is homeless prevention for older adults in our community. And I'm so proud and grateful for all the voices who rallied in support of providing this critical program for the city of Encinitas. So thank you for supporting this. So you can see a photo from the air of our city, a part of our city which is a bit farther away from the ocean. And we know that the statewide housing crisis, which has homelessness at one end, is affecting so many. So the housing crisis is deepening and Encinitas is not immune. We all want to protect the charm and the prosperity of our town. And in all honesty, historically, we have really struggled with finding the answer to that Encinitas question, the secret sauce, if you will, of how can we peacefully and productively add new housing. I believe it's possible and necessary for us to say yes to new housing in Encinitas. But of course, new housing needs to reflect the character of our town without sacrificing our neighborhoods. And Encinitas has averaged, it's important to remember this, about 150 new homes per year. That doesn't scream overdevelopment to me, does it to you? 150 new homes per year? Thanks to our innovative and wildly successful permit-ready accessory dwelling unit program, which you can see on the photo here, we have pioneered a way to add thoughtfully, carefully, and less contentiously new homes into our city. This is essentially a way to scatter density through accessory dwelling units or granny flats into existing neighborhoods. And since the program's unveiling in 2019, just 3 years ago, we have almost 300 accessory dwelling unit permits that were submitted, and 40 of them were the pre-approved plans that the city provided for free to make it really easy for people to do this. We also waived all the city fees. So if you want more proof that we are succeeding at moving past the shouting and are more able than ever to productively discuss housing in Encinitas, I want to recall this date, April 7, 2021. That's when the City Council adopted its housing element for the first time, on time, in its history. It's really not an understatement to say that for decades, housing has been synonymous with division and disagreement in Encinitas. And while I'm not suggesting that we're suddenly finding ourselves in complete agreement on the future of Encinitas housing, I'm hopeful that we can agree that we need to solve the housing challenge together, and that housing is a good, and that we can work toward providing it in a way that works. So people finding a home in the community that they love at a price they can afford benefits everybody. As a community that shares a property line with the Pacific Ocean, which we can see right out there, we know that Encinitas is limited when it comes to available land. But we need diversity in the type of housing that's available, with a focus on attainably priced homes. So just because a family can't afford a multi-million-dollar house, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't have a place in Encinitas to call home. We want to be able to stay here as we age. We want our kids, as they grow up and they want to come back, to be able to make Encinitas their home as well. So broadening our definition of who is included is what makes Encinitas exceptional. And it's the project that we're working on now. It's the right thing to do to make our city and our world a better place for all of us. So building a better city and a better planet is also reflected, not just in housing, but in our commitment to protecting the environment. This is a multifaceted commitment which really affects almost everything we do in the city. So we are continually strengthening our climate action plan, And this is to do even more for our ocean and our coast and our tree canopy and our water system and our entire planetary ecosystem. So for example, we recently updated our climate action plan and it unanimously backed an aggressive greenhouse gas reduction target. This is us doing our part to fight climate change, which we all need to be doing. And every community needs to be doing it. And we're really leading the way here in the city of Encinitas. So the state of California, for example, just banned gas leaf blowers in favor of less noisy and polluting electric blowers. And we did this a couple years ago in Encinitas. And when you see the recent oil spill that's relentlessly heading south from Orange County into San Diego County, I actually went to the beach this morning and to exercise and saw all these little bits of oil, not just the tar balls, but just teeny little bits everywhere. And was very discouraged to see that because I'd understood some of it was heading our way, but not as much as I saw this morning. It was also quite stormy this morning, so we'll see what the next days show in terms of our Encinitas beaches. But we know that we have 2 lagoons on either side of us, and they have been protected with booms so that those fragile ecosystems don't get into our lagoons. And all of this just goes to the point that we need to wean ourselves off of our dependence on oil, whether that's in our cars or in our buildings. And we're doing just that in the city of Encinitas. So when I say it's multifaceted, the next part is this example. So San Diego Community Power is our Joint Powers Authority, and we're so thrilled to have its chair be our city council member, Joe Mosca, the chair of our new So this is our new energy provider, and that's a key part of weaning ourselves off of oil, because in early 2022, every home in Encinitas will automatically be enrolled in 100% renewable energy as the default option. So it's so critical what the default option is, because very few people change their default. And this is no additional cost to residents. So you're going to be able to source your power in your home with 100% renewable energy. We're also really excited to introduce an ordinance that requires only electric in new homes and commercial buildings. So that's something that the Encinitas City Council also recently passed. Another piece of this is how we manage our waste. So a final piece of our environmental commitment, when you see the slide in front of you, you see nearly 40% of the landfill is organics, green waste, food waste. And that's just a stunning percentage to me. And if you look at the amount with paper, 17%, we can do something about that. So this is something that's near and dear to my heart, and I really want to mention it because this is the long-anticipated rollout, which we've just done, of our food and green waste recycling program. So last year, before this started, all of your food scraps from your kitchen would go straight into the trash, and then it would go to the landfill. And by the way, landfills are inert and never biodegrade. So anything that you're putting over into the landfill does not have a future. So that's a one-way. And so together with our visionary waste hauler, Edco, who built a digester years ago started the permitting process expecting this to come forward. Where is Edco? Does anyone see him? Yes, right here. Thank you. We're so lucky to have them as our waste hauler because they have helped us deal with this question of what do we do with our organics. And so they have a digester, and what happens is you put it into the bin, the green waste bin, and then it's processed at the digester, and what comes out of that process is methane gas that powers their trucks, and then the byproduct is a type of fertilizer that fertilizes crops. So that, this is just much more sustainable. And when you think about diverting 40% from our landfill, there's just no question that that's a great development. And I'm so thrilled that we've done that in the city of Encinitas. And in the coming months, the largest generators of green waste, which are restaurants and markets, they will also start sending their food scraps to the digester. So right now it's residences, but it will begin also to affect businesses too. So while we love our neighboring cities, we are not waiting on them, and in fact, they are following our lead. So one example of that is our award-winning Cardiff Living Shoreline project. So this is in the national spotlight, and I actually hear this raised on conference calls and things that I'm on this project, because it looks to nature to build coastal resilience against sea level rise. This is protecting the road, the these dunes, these sand dunes, and it's also protecting the beach. So what we've done is we've rewound the damage that has been done to this fragile coastal ecosystem by creating the sand dunes that mirror the local ecosystem that my mom remembers when she was growing up here in Cardiff. She would talk about the sand dunes before the campground was here. So it's great that we're recreating these sand dunes, and then also right next to it, we have new pedestrian walkways and buffered bike lanes. And these protected bike lanes have added a barrier between cyclists and cars, which provides more life-saving space and safety for everyone. And when I ride my bike along here, I am moved every time thinking about how much we can accomplish when we reinvest in the resilience of our natural environment, and also when we create opportunities to travel outside our car that are truly safe and protected from cars. There's just no question that it's transformational. The next project this was from February 2021, and the Encinitas Planning Commission approved the installation of the Beacon's Coastal Bluff Restoration Project. So what this is the primary objective of this is to stabilize the surface soils. So this is not deeply stabilizing that bluff. We know that bluffs will continue to slough off, but this is the surface soils. And it's using native vegetation while increasing that coastal bluff habitat. So the restoration project is slated to begin any day now. It hasn't started yet, but you will see it coming to life in this next year. So projects like this, they do benefit our environment, and that results in positive changes for our community. So I always see the environment as interwoven with business and with community. Another great set of projects to be proud of, which is transformational for Leukemia and has been long fought, much contested, and I'm so excited that we're halfway through the construction on the project right now, is the Leukemia Streetscape and Aloe undercrossing. So for those of you who are living in Leukemia right now, I know that it's an active construction site and it's probably very annoying for you, the inconveniences, and I'm truly sorry about that. But it will be worth it at the end, because when it's completed, we'll have dramatically and visibly improved North Coast Highway 101. As the neighborhood road it was meant to be, and not the crowded commuter shortcut it has become over many decades. The project includes safe crossing underneath the train tracks at El Portal, which will connect east and west neighborhoods that have not had a safe connection because of the railroad track. And it will also make it easier for residents to get around without needing to rely on their car. A lot of times trips are not that long if they feel safe and they're pleasant to make. It's when they're unpleasant that they feel long. So we're making these investments in our infrastructure that are so important. And another benefit of this project is the planting of trees to replenish our urban canopy. So you can see the trees right now. We are right here in Leukemia, so we're not far from all this construction. For those of you who know this area, you know that you can see the project, and you probably did see it driving here. So all of these things strengthen and improve our environment. So more trees to absorb greenhouse gases, new biofiltration systems for stormwater, and more opportunities to enjoy our city outside of your car. And this is a top priority for all of us on the City Council, and has been for the entirety of my 7 years in office here. So to reduce our greenhouse emissions, we know we need to use our cars less often, but we also, as a city, we need to offer alternatives. Because you can't basically say, change your habits, but we're not going to give you any other thing to do or easier way to do it. So we are creating and are making the investment in those opportunities that are cleaner, greener, and faster. And we're digging into this concept on a full citywide, system-wide level with our circulation element planning. So this is a process that began in the spring of 2021. And our last update was really in 1989, so that was 30 years ago. We really need to update that system-wide plan, and we've invested in doing that. I'm really excited to watch as this process evolves so that we can increasingly begin to see our capital improvement projects, these CIP projects, these big projects on our roads, not just through the lens of sustainability, but also through the lens of accessibility and inclusivity. Because those are both really important things to be considered when we're building a transportation network. So I want to just focus a couple more thoughts on the Leukemia Streetscape project for a moment, because you see that on your screen right here. There are roundabouts, dedicated parking areas in the rail corridor, crosswalks, bike lanes, and California native landscaping. This is all breathing new life into Leukemia, and that means more access, more inclusiveness, and more people safely enjoying this area. And not just those who are fortunate enough to live nearby, but everybody. So when you drive through, this is a picture that's a little bit old now, but you can see the current construction and the scale of things and how they will change and be rejuvenated and reinvigorated when we have a safe and legal crossing underneath the railroad tracks between Vulcan and Highway 101. And I just want to mention some of the elements that fly under the radar, but they're just as critical, like the stormwater work being done. So for example, we've had flooding in Leukemia for forever, and we might be able to have that be a distant memory when we have made those improvements. Next, I want to mention in the city that the safety of our homes and families and community is always a top priority. There's nothing really that is more important in someone's life than their safety. So I am proud, but of course never satisfied, that Encinitas continues to be ranked as one of the safest cities in San Diego County. In 2020, we were the 17th safest city in the entire state, according to the SafeWise Safest Cities report. And that's moving up 12 spaces from the last year, for a total jump of 36 spaces for just 2 years. So we're getting safer and safer. And this is brought to you by our talented and dedicated team of sheriff's officers, firefighters, lifeguards, and emergency service personnel who risk their lives 24/7, 365 to ensure Encinitas is safe. We have our new sheriff's captain here, and we might have our fire chief too. Oh yes, go ahead, stand up, stand up, stand up. So the importance of these first responders cannot be overstated. And in addition to their everyday heroics, they answer the call of COVID, and they help protect our community from the insidious and invisible threat that COVID is. We are now working to make sure that all city staff are vaccinated to ensure the highest level of safety when the public interacts with city's personnel. So one of the main themes for me tonight and for the city is inclusion and diversity, because this is the long overdue critical conversation that we're having as a community in Encinitas, and it's also part of our state and our country's greater dialogue. I'm thankful that we're taking substantive actions to correct historical injustices and recognizing that not everybody has had the same access to opportunity and services and resources in Encinitas. So being inclusive and championing diversity is part of a moral commitment to our body politic. Everyone deserves a fair and equal shot at upward mobility for themselves and their families. And for many, that means a chance to start and own their own businesses, because that's really the heart of the American dream. Encinitas is honored, and we are so privileged to be the home of so many small businesses. They are the lifeblood of our town. Small businesses are they're creative, they're active, they're energizing, and they unite the city and ensure our future. So one of the newest businesses that started this last year was Encinitas for Equality, pictured here with its storefront in Leukemia. They got a table at the back right there, thank you. And what they're bringing is a commitment and awareness, a language and advocacy behind social and racial justice. It's a wonderful addition to our city, and I'm so grateful to have them. Thank you. Worth mentioning, this is just critically important in the city, is that Encinitas scored a major coup in the last year in attracting one of San Diego County's only startups that's valued at over $1 billion. And that's Block Freight, which you can see, I took this picture actually. I don't know if they have a sign yet, but they did when I took it. But they moved their business from Solana Beach to our downtown of Encinitas. And these are great jobs. This is a tech startup company valued at over $1 billion. So they are in the Nixon building, one of our former long-term employers, and Nixon moved to a larger space in a nearby community, and the Nixon building was then repurposed by Flock Freight for the employees who work in this technology startup company. So last year, during the State of the City, which was virtual, I noted how our city staff and council quickly approved a plan to allow businesses to use our outdoor public space. So you can see that happening right here in this picture. It's an extension of their dining rooms and their store floors. And today, this policy is still working extremely well for Encinitas businesses and customers. On the financial side, we delivered federal CARES Act funding. In total, we have supported local businesses with $575,000 in grants to help them keep open with their daily struggles. I mean, there were serious struggles to stay afloat, and we were excited that we were able to offer them these grants. So, owning a small business before COVID was a challenge. So the city continuing to do all it can to support our small business community is really important. And as our recovery picks up speed, it's also important to note that some of our beloved businesses lost their battle for survival and did have to close. But the color and the energy of small businesses adds to our daily lives, and really the value of that cannot be overstated. So the tenacity and the resilience of our business owners and their hardworking employees and loyal customers is something to be proud of and to be celebrated here in the city. I'll say that I sometimes attend conferences with other mayors who are talking about things like blight and disinvestment in their downtowns. And it's always, I'm always reminded of how fortunate we are here in the city and how fortunate I am to be a mayor of a city where we have businesses moving in when other businesses move out, and it's so desirable to be here. So we need to, of course, always cherish that and protect that and keep that as part of our city's fabric. So I want to say a few words about our city finances. Our finances, even with the headwinds of COVID, have remained robust and sound. So in our last fiscal year, which was the 2019 and 2020, we reported a surplus budget of $9.1 million. We were also able to pay down our pension liabilities and invest $4.8 million for important capital improvement projects, like that Leukemia Streetscape project, the El Portal undercrossing, improvements in our trails and parks, our always very popular annual pavement program when your street gets paved, and all of the multimodal transportation and safety enhancements that we're doing throughout the city. So our resources, our reserves remain healthy at $15.8 million, and this will allow us to continue to be prepared for any economic downturns or emergencies. So we really are in a good place financially in the city of Encinitas. We have being in that position allows us to implement those broader plans and priorities that better the lives of residents and visitors, and to respond to issues and challenges that confront us. So resilience is a word that I think does describe very well who we are as a city, and this has shown itself in spades in the past year. While none of us would have predicted the upheaval to our daily lives or the tragedies of COVID-19, it does serve as a striking reminder of the importance of our health and our safety, and of our responsibility to each other. What we do and how we act and what we say and how we treat one another matters more than ever. And it's really difficult in this polarized political environment sometimes to maintain that, but I think it's just really important to remember that how we treat each other as humans matters, and to be kind, and to communicate even criticism in a way that can be heard by the person listening. So I want to close my remarks. By offering my sincerest thank you to all of you who came out tonight, to all the people watching this live. This is the first time we've been able to stream this live, not to be posted later, but live, so that people can watch it at the same time if they're not here in the room. And also to all the sponsors who bought tables and who support our Chamber of Commerce. This is the Chamber of Commerce's largest fundraiser for the year. So it's really exciting that we continue to support the chamber in this way with this event. So serving as your mayor here in the city of Encinitas has really been the unmatchable honor of my 45-year lifespan. It's really, every time I think about it, it affects me because I get just an emotional response to the recognition that I could not be more proud to be your voice, to be working every single day for a stronger community that's even more welcoming and more resilient, and an even better place to be. It's a true honor that I am allowed to be the mayor of this great city, and I thank you so much. So have a great evening.